It's just an ordinary band, right? Wrong. It's called the Rockefeller Explosion, and as you can see, it's far from ordinary. I guess you call it a mechanical musical group, or maybe you call it a musical group that just happens to be mechanical. At any rate, it's a different concept in entertainment that starts at this rather unsuspecting building in downtown Orlando. Inside creative engineering, an arm here, a leg there, an eye, a hand, that's what this fuzzy thing is, are welded and bolted and all put together to make a skeleton of sorts. While at the same time, the bodies of the characters are being poured. Latex molds are made of their bodies. Add stuffing and a fuzzy little covering, and you have one member of the Rockefeller Explosion.
We once dreamed that we would be the best animation company in the world. We once dreamed that we'd have our animation out in front of everyone and that everyone would see it. And this dream has become a reality, and it's becoming more so every day. We're young, we're excited, we're idealistic, and we really want to see our characters become the greatest entertainment medium to come out of the 1980s. That'll be our niche.
We're having a birthday party. This day is a special one. And having a birthday party is a lot of fun. So light up the candles, one for every year that's gone. We'll sing a song for you. And we're hoping your birthday wish comes true. You're gonna get lots of presents. You're gonna get a thank you too. We're giving you one to grow on, and it's just for you. Yeah, just for you. It's time to celebrate another year has gone. Have a happy birthday. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Aaron, it's great
Hey.
meeting you. I'm Chris Bauer.
Yes, Chris.
Very nice to meet
Nice
you.
to
Hi,
meet you
buddy.
too. Absolutely.
How did you decide you wanted to do anything? So I'll kind of like just give you a quick run around, and you can stop and ask me questions on anything.
Absolutely.
Okay? That thing there. That's Billy Bob, and I put a hat on him because I was doing a little green screen thing for the folks that helped Brad Paisley.
Oh, cool.
They're working on an idea where Brad might use Billy Bob in a green screen thing.
That's cool.
So
Cool.
I did a little demo for them. And over here is the Wolfpack 5. And we brought them up from the basement a few years ago. I guess it's been 5 years.
Rock and roll is here to stay. It will always be. Happy days and summer nights, twisted away with me.
Wow.
And we'll work on it again. And when I work on it again, people will watch it. They'll be able to see me doing it on the premium channel.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And meanwhile, while these things have been up here, a family of spiders moved in. And these moon rockers,
Okay, this was the show that came later. It was like a different example.
1985.
We're the moon rockers from the city inside the moon. The moon rockers from the city inside the moon.
Okay, when I separated from Showbiz, I had 80 shows left over.
Whoa.
I had to sell them somehow. Nobody wanted to buy any Rockefeller Explosions because it came from a failing restaurant chain. So we converted it.
So they were tainted.
They were tainted, so we
Yeah.
converted it, but nobody wanted this either. And so we entered, that's why I'm telling you, we entered in 1985 the dark ages of animatronics. We could have had a blip of business that made us think things were coming back, and we created a new show we called the New Rockefeller.
Yeah.
But it was short-lived because there just really wasn't the customers.
Right.
Yeah,
People had gotten desensitized to it.
yeah, and it was,
It was no big deal anymore.
yeah, it was no big deal. Even with new shows, you know, like, I mean, I could watch a new show on the Rockefeller Explosion every week. If you gave me a new one to watch every week, I'd be happy to sit down and watch it. But that's a small group. So this is the melting moose mask. This is a major attraction around here.
God in heaven, you know that I love what I do for a living. I do. Oh, but Jesus.
Mama.
Oh.
So
Hide
he's
behind the door.
yeah, and
The kill.
and she was in her own on stage.
Yeah.
So that she could tell the boys, now y'all, I got to go down and see dear old. I got to go put some flowers on dear old dead Pappy's grave, and I don't want y'all to play any honky tonk music while I'm gone.
No honky tonk.
And they promised that, and then she'd have a bird next to her, which was the beginnings of Looney Bird.
Oh, okay.
And that bird had a big mouth, and the bird says, "Papa ain't dead, Mama. He's living down in the holler with Miss Kitty." And she'd hit him on the head with a frying pan, and that's why he's got a lump on his head
Right.
and a plant growing out of it.
That's awesome. Okay, that makes sense.
This is where I have my collection of anti-gravity freedom machines, also known as the AGFM.
Right.
So this invention right here allows you to be free of that, and people who hate all of that stuff and want the technology to be able to send messages to each other can now do it with the anti-gravity freedom machine. Allow me to demonstrate.
Please demonstrate. Go ahead.
Let's say I want to send a message to you.
Okay.
Okay, you've got a machine in England. It's connected to your phone.
I've got an anti-gravity freedom machine in England.
Yes, I've got one at my house in Orlando, Florida. We're both plugged into a normal telephone line. All I want to do is press clear letter that gives me a clean page. It's saying, okay, yes, for sure. Clear the screen. Now that gives me a clean piece of paper. That's
Yeah.
all I wanted. Now I type a message. Hi there.
Okay, I
Bro.
like the message.
Okay, that's the message. Now I want to send it. So I press the button that brings up the list of people that I can send the message to. In this case, I'll push this button right here.
Listen to the noises.
Yes, okay, and I'll press done. And now all it's asking me for is a title for the message, and that's it. And we'll just title this message, "Hi there from me." Okay, that's for right
Okay.
now. Okay, press the return key and we're done. Now that message is being stored on the disk, and only your disk, not out there in some server somewhere where people can hack into it and get your messages. And now the machine is picking up the telephone line, it's dialing the number, it's sending it down to your machine in England. In only seconds, you're gonna get the message. Now let's go over there and see what happens.
Let's go. Come with us, Bob. Let's run.
What, a year or 2 years earlier?
Yeah,
I'm sure that goes through your head all the time.
but I am thankful that I wasn't.
Really?
You know why?
Why?
Because if I'd have gotten a start and people were buying my machine, and then 2 years later the internet came along and I wasn't ready for it,
That's true.
it wasn't going to change anything.
No.
I wasn't going to get a piece of the internet.
No, that's a good point. That's a very
I was
good
going to be
point.
wiped away.
Yeah, you would have been.
My investors would have been wiped out. I mean, it would have been a bad
You'd have been on
scene.
the hook for all that and felt really bad about
I'd have
it.
felt terrible. So I
But
got
it's
a
such a cool idea. I mean, you were ahead of it again, ahead of the time.
I got a lot out of it.
Such a cool idea. I gotta say,
The elevator. Okay, so this is, I call it the haunted elevator.
it absolutely looks to be.
And it was built over 100 years ago along with the building. And there is this is why I think it's haunted, because there's a pair of overalls that were there when I moved in.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they've been hanging there since, well, long before I was here.
He's the funniest robot science ever made.
Hello, you're on the air with Uncle Clunk.
So,
There he is.
so there's Uncle Clunk. Now, Uncle Clunk, there it is with the nose and chin assembly
Nightmare
that got us in
fuel.
trouble. You know,
Yep.
and that's smaller. It was like out to here. It was supposed to be
Right.
around.
Hung down a little bit.
Yeah, it was
There's
nice.
his banana instead of the telephone.
And you know what's funny about it? You know, as latex ages, it falls.
Get actually installed in.
I think that we ran them through all the stores. We had
Really?
40 of them,
Nope.
and we put them in one store for a while, like a few months, and then
Yeah.
moved to another store. So I think that at some point, all the stores had an Uncle Clunk for a couple of months.
That's awesome.
But the executives picked trouble with it, and so he ended up coming back in my warehouse. But eventually, I'll work on them again. I'll hook them to the control system. We'll put some new shows out, and Uncle Clunk will live again.
That's awesome.
You know, the characters that are on dollies. These guys have been to, like I told you, Las Vegas and California and this Detroit. We made a movie with Ryan Gosling,
Oh,
a movie
cool.
with Adam Sandler,
No kidding.
Jennifer Aniston, and what's her name?
That's nice.
That's it. This is the creepiest thing.
Yeah.
People, I didn't even realize that a picture of this was going around the internet,
Oh my God, look at that face. Yeah, that's terrifying.
and it was going around.
And look at those eyes.
It's like on cursed images.
Holy cow.
I know. The eyes look really evil,
Yeah, they're
and with
truly evil.
the mouth open.
All the moles.
Yeah. Now that's it. That's second generation Mitzi. So we were working on second generation
Oh,
Mitzi.
is that when it basically it ended, like you had to get like the funding got cut or whatever?
No, yeah. Funding got cut, so
Yeah.
we didn't get to finish it. But I will finish it someday, and you'll see me working on it.
Spider.
You see a spider?
No, I said she looks like a spider.
Oh, she looks like
Yeah,
one.
From over here.
Yeah, totally. I know.
Awesome.
So it'll be on the premium channel.
Yeah, there you go.
Obviously.
There you go.
And then these are the molds for all the faces and the hands and the feet and all the latex pieces that make up the show. First studio that we built to do our recordings in, and we used it for about a year before we needed to move to a larger studio.
This is the studio time for guys. Look
Yeah.
at these organs and pianos.
And here's one just like it that actually comes on with the breaker, and I love how it sounds. So every once in a while, I'll just let my dog lay there and play that. This room in here, I call the show stages looked in the 80s at Showbiz Pizza Place. There was 3 stages, as you see, a big center stage and 2 small side stages. And small, relative. And so there's 2 characters over here, you know, Billy Bob. Well, I always used to think back in the 80s that I was really glad that I got this start so young.
Yeah.
Because that meant that when this day arrived,
Yeah.
and people, you know, and I would be old, you know, theoretically, or even older.
You
I
do
mean,
not look old.
I'm not there. I'm not really old yet, but I'm 67. I'm old enough.
You're
You know what?
kidding me. You're 67?
Yeah, I've lived past my childhood life expectancy.
Right.
I really consider the show to have 3 elements.
Okay.
There's the visual itself. There's the characters.
Yeah.
Okay, which you get even if they're not moving. And then there's the audio. That's the songs and the show tapes. And at least that they were able to play in full fidelity over there at Billy Bob's Wonderland.
Yeah.
And then there's the lights. The lights are as important part of the show as the music.
Oh, yeah.
And so when Showbiz started bringing the lights up in the room because they were worried about it was too dark in the showroom, and then they removed the walls altogether, just like it. I think the walls were pretty much removed in Billy Bob's Wonderland.
Yeah.
They were. It wasn't in its own room.
Yeah, there was no more walls.
That ruins the magic of the show.
You're no longer in a theater, so to speak.
Right.
You're not part of the show. You're just part of
Yeah.
the tables.
Yeah. And when I control the lighting, I control your attention
Right.
because I tell you where to
Yeah,
look.
pings.
But if I don't have enough contrast,
Okay.
if there's this sitting right where he's hoping you'll sit, but that's the seat that Michael Jackson sat in.
No kidding.
But what happened with Michael is he
Yeah.
was very timid,
Yeah.
and I tease people when they come here.
Sure.
I tease them. I let them know that we're equals.
Right.
I didn't treat him like he was some kind of god.
Sure.
I
That's
teased him
fair.
when he made a mistake,
Sure.
and
He's probably not used to that.
he's not used to it.
Yeah.
And I just basically treat him like a fellow guy,
Yeah,
just a
totally.
fellow friend, hoping that he would find that refreshing.
Right.
But it didn't work.
They never do.
No, he comes in and
They
I
like
said,
yes people.
Michael, there's your seat,
Right.
and pointing to the one seat that's slightly better than the other seats.
Right. Right.
And he says,
That's right.
no, that's your seat. That was the first thing. And then we're watching the Abbey Road show tape together, and
Yeah.
I'm sitting beside him, and he looks at me and he says, those are cute songs.
Yeah.
Who wrote those songs?
No. Yeah.
I did, yeah. And then I went, the Beatles? He goes, oh.
I'll get some boy.
3 weeks later,
Yeah.
he bought all the
Is that
Beatles
okay? I thought
catalog.
he did. I thought I remember that.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
I
God.
still believe that he
Wow.
bought the Beatles catalog as inspired by
Yeah,
seeing.
right.
I don't think he understood. I don't think he knew the Beatles' work,
Wow.
and he didn't know how great the Beatles were.
Yeah, because they're so
He heard about them,
infectious.
but then he's at a different level than us. We were fans of the Beatles. We were kids,
Right.
and we loved the Beatles. He was a star.
He was from age
And
5 on.
Yeah, so
So they were
everybody
competition. If anything.
competition, or they hung out together, or they didn't hang
Right,
out together, but
right.
they were in equal footing.
just
Equal
in
footing.
the-
It is the biggest example of this. It's been going on for decades, by the way. This isn't something that just started.
Right.
Decades ago, the way I got the Showbiz contract
Yeah.
was by sending it out into the universe. I deserve this contract.
Right.
Now you don't just get it by sending that out. You have to work for it.
Yeah.
You know, but as you're working for it, it comes to you.
Hope so.
But what really happened
Yeah.
was Nolan Bushnell
Yeah.
started the first in 1977.
Right.
He built the first Chuck E. Cheese.
Right.
It was called Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater,
Right.
and it was in California, and he had 7 of them
Yeah.
when I met him in 1977,
Okay.
or was it 78? Let me think. It was 77.
Okay.
Okay, I met him at the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions, and I had a bear, a singing bear.
Yeah.
And it was great bear. It was almost as good as anything I've got now. So I met Bushnell, 77. I had a bear, and he saw the bear, and he introduced himself to me. He says, "Hey, I just started this restaurant chain. I've got 7 going, and I'd like to buy a piece of your animation, and use it in, and I might buy animation for all my restaurants. It could be a huge contract for you." Well, my instinct said, stay as far away as you can from this guy.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
this guy is going to buy, and it wasn't just because of him. It was because of other people that I had sold some stuff to, even in my first couple of years. They buy it from me, and if they've got the ability, they'll take it apart, figure out how it works, and they'll make it. And that's what I was
You
afraid
definitely
of.
would have had the opportunity. Or the,
Sure, he started Atari.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? This kid, I was a kid, and I built a bear, and I'm going to sell, and he's going to buy him from me because I've got something special. He didn't respect me like that. No, and nobody did. They all, my first bunch of customers all bought stuff from me and then started their own animation company because they thought I had, I had a great racket going. Oh, there's nothing in there. There's hardly anything in there, and you're selling them for $15,000. There's nothing in there. So we want to do that. So they all did. And I knew Nolan Bushnell would buy one bear, get it back there, reverse engineer it, and that'd be the last I'd ever see of him. And so I said, nope, I'm not going to sell you a bear. I said, that's not the way I'm going to go. So he got the message. He came back in 1978. I was there again. But this time, I had a full show, the Wolfpack 5. And so he comes, and he sees the Wolfpack 5, and he sees the attention I'm getting. And man, I was winning awards for the Wolfpack 5. And it wasn't just because the animation was so good. The animation was great, and it was a full show with all bunch of characters. But we were doing music from the 50s, like Sha Na Na, like doo-wop music. And I had hooked up with a band. The band was called Clutch.
Okay.
And they rocked.
Really?
Yeah, and I captured their music, and they helped me. Because when you're on your way up, and you don't have a lot of money, people will see what you're doing, I can help you with that. You need us. 78, he comes to me. I've got this show. I'm winning awards. Man, there were so many people trying to see the show. This is at a convention where there's aisles and stuff. There were so many people. You're familiar with that. They were clogging. The aisles were so clogged. You couldn't. Nobody.
It was ahead of its time.
Nobody could see
I've
anything.
seen video footage of it. I'm still impressed by the Wolfpack 5. It's awesome.
So nobody seen anything. And it was, it wasn't anything like the Rocket Fire, but it was the Wolfpack 5. And I was winning awards, and Nolan Bushnell comes. He says, all right, you wouldn't sell me a bear last year. Will you sell me your company this year? Well, I knew again. I said, hey, I'm on the way up, man. You're going to be buying low. I know you're not going to pay me what I really would think would worth. If he'd have said, Aaron, I'll give you $25 million for your company, I would have sold it.
Sure.
But I think I knew what he was all about. I researched him. He wasn't going to give me any cash. I didn't even ask him for an offer. But I know what he does. He offers you stock in the company that he has control over. And he has control over the value of that stock. And the stock's not worth anything anyway, especially by the time, if you hold on to it long enough, he'll make it worth nothing.
Oh, and that Atari stock wouldn't have lasted more than a few years.
No, if that stock was worth $25 million and he gave it to me and it was tradable, I'd take it. But no, it's not tradable. You got to hold on to it.
Vested for like 4 years.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. He's going to take.
That would have screwed you because they went up. They go bankrupt in '83, didn't they?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think officially 84 maybe, but anyway, in that range.
Right.
So I told him again. I said, no, I'm not gonna sell you my company. 1979, the next year. Okay, the summer of '79. That was between the two conventions. The summer of '79 is when I read that Bob Brock signed a deal with Bushnell. Brock is going to develop 280 restaurants. That should be my deal. I immediately sent a message into the universe. That should be my deal. I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. This year, we're going to go to the convention with the Wolfpack 5 and a whole nother show, the Bear Show. So we're going to take a rock and roll show and a country music show. We're going to have both shows at the convention at the same time, and we're going to play one and then the other and then one and the other. It's going to blow people away. It's going to be so fantastic that I'm going to get that deal. And somehow or another, I'm going to invite this guy over. I'm going to say, you better look at this. You better decide if you really want to be with Bushnell. He's got this little animation that does this. So in 1979, I brought those shows to the convention, and we were packed. We had so many people lined up to see us. My dad was negotiating contracts for me, and we had everybody lined up. And then after the convention, he calls me, and he says, Aaron, my two men were there, and they saw what you had, and I am disturbed to say the least that I'm involved in this contract with Nolan Bushnell after finding out what you had. Now, I didn't get to see it myself, but I want to see it. I want to come to Orlando and meet you and see it. Do you have a place that you work? I said, yeah. And I had this building, by the way. I bought this building in '77. Building. I had 325 altogether in various buildings.
Oh, gotcha.
But and that was in 1983 after we got the contract.
Sure.
But in 1979, I still had 30, 40 employees in this building, building shows, and I had a nice office.
Yeah.
Okay, my office, we dolled it up because
Yeah.
I was a young man, and I wanted a nice office, you know.
Of course.
And I wanted a nice desk, and I wanted a nice chair, and I wanted nice curtains, and I wanted beautiful paneling. And my mom decorated my office, you know. So I mean, I was like the king
Right.
in my office. So Bob Brock comes and he sits on the other side of my desk.
Sure.
Bob Brock, who's you know way up here compared to me in the
Sure.
financial world, is sitting on the other side of the desk,
Yeah.
and I'm little old Aaron Fechter, the kid,
Right.
and I looked 10 years younger than I
Yeah.
was. You know, the kid is sitting there, you know, talking to Bob Brock. That was an amazing moment. I would give anything if there was video of that.
I'll bet.
And so he says, yeah, Bushnell told me that he was the only one that made animatronics outside of Disney.
Yeah.
He lied.
Yeah, he did.
He says, we can get out of this contract and I can start a restaurant concept with you.
Yeah.
I said, I'm in.
Wow.
So Bob Brock, he voided the contract
Yeah.
on the basis of fraudulent misrepresentation.
Sure.
And said, go to hell to Bushnell. We're doing this with Fechter. And he and I started. So we signed the deal, the contract we signed on December like 15th,
Right.
1979.
Yeah.
So remember this, I only had, the convention was November
Yeah. So
of
it was a
79.
month then.
So in a month, he signs the contract with me
Yeah.
to start Showbiz Pizza Place. I named it Showbiz Pizza
Did you?
Place.
Right on.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
He gave me the naming rights.
Oh man.
And we had to open our first restaurant in February.
Wow.
The only way I was going to have a show ready by February was to put the Wolfpack 5 in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we put the Wolfpack 5 in the first show,
Yeah.
in the first restaurant in February. I think it opened maybe March 3rd or something.
Right.
And
Did you already have plans for the Rockefeller when
No.
before? Really?
no, after we formed Showbiz,
Yeah.
and I asked him, he says, let's just build the Wolfpack 5. This is Bob Brock. Let's just build the Wolfpack 5 and put the Wolfpack 5 in all our restaurants. It'll be fine. It's great.
Right.
It's a perfect show.
Yeah.
I said, why don't you give me your budget
Right.
for a show
Right.
and let me do the best I can? I built that show on a shoestring. I built that show with no money.
Right.
I want to build something great.
Yeah.
I want to beat that show by a mile.
Yeah.
And I can. I just need a little money. So how much will you give me? How much can I allot per show? And we came up with a number like $120,000
Yeah.
for a show. It was worth it. Okay, so like the Wolfpack 5 was like 80,000.
Sure.
But he said, yeah, we can go to 120 per restaurant for a show, considering the restaurants cost like $2 million, $3 million to build
Sure.
each. So I came up with a budget, came up with a show, and this is the show I came up with. Bushnell sued us
Okay. Yeah.
for $400 million. He says, you stole my idea. I'm been damaged $400 million, and I'm going to take this to court. Bob Brock was a prince of a guy.
Yeah.
Now, Bob Brock reasonably and fairly voided that contract
Yeah.
because Bushnell really did tell him there was nobody else that could do this, and I could do it, and I did do it. I proved it. So anyway, and Bushnell, when Brock brought me up to Bushnell, Bushnell says, "Oh, that's just a kid working out of his garage."
Right.
And Brock says, "I've been to his garage.
Right.
It's 37,000 square feet, and he's got 30 employees."
Yeah.
Guys, you misrepresented this.
Right.
So anyway, so Bushnell sued him anyway,
Yeah.
and there was depositions, and there was hundreds of thousands of dollars spent in legal expenses
Yeah.
getting ready for the trial.
Yeah.
But you know what Bob Brock did? Okay, bless his heart. I want to tell you something. Bob
Yeah.
Brock is the second greatest man in my life.
Really.
My dad being the first.
Sure.
So Bob Brock is second only to my dad
Yeah.
in terms of ethics, business ethics, quality of honesty and
Right.
integrity and ethics, and you know, I just loved him.
Yeah.
We had our little battles.
Sure,
We had some
sure.
battles.
That's
So
business.
yeah, it's just business. And you know, there were some moments where I didn't trust him, but I'm going to tell you, the long and short of it was he was everything that you would ever want in a business partner. And anyway, so
Yeah.
$50 million paid over 10 years.
Oh, okay, okay. That's right, because I've heard it was like the cut of the profits for like 10 years. Or
Yeah,
whatever. Okay.
which amounted to $5 million a year.
I got
So we're paying Chuck E. Cheese $5 million a year. That's nothing. We're making so many millions of dollars that we can give them $5 million a year. It's nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. Okay. Well, it was nothing until they ran out of money,
Yeah.
and now they got to pay them $5 million a year. That was the only profit that Chuck E. Cheese was making.
No.
They were losing their
They were
ass.
just making it off of
All they
Showbiz.
were making was that royalty payment from Showbiz Pizza Place, and Bushnell, meanwhile, was fraudulently misrepresenting the opportunities to invest in Chuck E. Cheese to new investors. He was stealing everybody's money.
Sure.
He could have easily been strung up by the SEC.
Yeah.
But
you end up getting in trouble anyway.
yeah, and I don't really know what trouble he got into.
Right.
But he did not reap great rewards from what he did.
Right.
And then we started having financial problems. Well,
Right.
Bushnell was going out of business first.
Yeah.
He was ahead of us by at least a year or two.
Sure.
But we were headed the same place.
Right.
And so Bushnell's bankrupt. He's even out of the company now.
Yeah.
You know, the investors came in, kicked him out, and now it's just basically the people who have financial viability in Chuck E. Cheese at this point are the franchisees.
Right.
They're not broke,
Sure.
but the company's broke,
Right.
and they don't know what to do by themselves.
Yeah.
They need a company to send their monthly royalties to,
Right.
for some reason. So what do you need a company to send your monthly royalties to? Why don't you just keep your entertainment center going? You know, make your own ads. Oh, well, we need. One guy said it this way. He says, "Oh, we need a star to hitch our wagon to." So I don't understand that, but okay.
Right.
So anyway, Showbiz Pizza Place looked at the opportunity
Yeah.
to absorb
Right.
Chuck E. Cheese's assets, but not to absorb their liabilities. We did
Okay.
not pay a dime
No.
to to Chuck E. Cheese to take their name, the copyrights to their stupid characters,
Right.
all the equity and anything they had, or all the restaurants.
Right.
So we took it all over for nothing. And the reason that the bankruptcy court gave it to us and
Yeah.
approved the deal was because that was a possibility that we could get the whole chain working better. We would close the worst stores,
Right.
but the best stores would stay open, including the franchise stores,
Yeah.
would stay open, and there would be a star to hitch your wagon to.
Sure.
That was the deal.
Wow.
So, what do you think? I didn't want to do that.
Right.
I vetoed it. I vetoed a lot of deals that they came up with to try and make Showbiz last, to try and put Showbiz back in business, because they were all stupid.
Yeah.
A lot of deals. There was things that they suggested, like for example, changing the name of the restaurant to Barnum and Bailey's Showbiz Pizza Place.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Like, redo the whole thing as different like circus characters.
Yeah, they were going to be questions like, Aaron, would you mind making replacement parts for Chuck E. Cheese characters? Yes. Yes.
Yes, I would.
I do not want to make replacement parts for Chuck E. Cheese
Right.
characters. That's not what I signed up for.
Right.
I beat Chuck E. Cheese. I do not want to make Chuck E. Cheese head turn mechanism. Okay, all right.
Totally.
Just checking. Just
Right.
checking. You know, and some people think I made a mistake with that attitude. But
Get it.
but I felt like I had one life to live, and that life was
Right.
not going to be making parts for
Well,
characters
you
that I
had made a
hated.
successful show that has
Yeah.
absorbed the old show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not. I just didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they said, well, we're going to do it. I said, you can't do it because I own 20% of Showbiz Pizza Place. I have veto power. I'm not going to let you do it. So they negotiated with me. They bought half of my stock
Okay.
in 1985. They
Yeah.
bought half of my stock for like $3.5 million.
Yeah.
So I still own 10%,
Right.
but the half that I sold them gave them the power that they
Yeah,
needed.
voting.
And the reason I had to do that, because if I didn't do it, they were going to dilute my ownership to the point that I no longer had voting power. So to them, the cheapest way to handle it was to give me up to $3.5 million.
Right.
That would save them some money, diluting my stock.
Right.
And I figured, okay, I'll take the $3.5 million and I will budget it to keep myself in business,
Sure.
and until I can live to fight another day.
Sure.
And I take my show with me,
Right.
the rights to my show.
Yeah.
They wanted the rights to my show.
I'll bet.
They said, we'd like to keep your show on our stage,
Right.
but you got to give us the rights. You can't own the rights anymore. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to give up the rights to my show. I mean, I'll continue developing it for you. I mean, you don't have any problems with the show. You like the tapes. You like the show. It's going to get better and better.
Yeah.
So why do you need to own the rights to it?
Right.
So I went my way, and they went theirs.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is the important thing,
Yeah.
the takeaway. By absorbing Chuck E. Cheese's assets, the most important asset, they had the name, they had the characters, they had the, you know, the franchises that were making money,
Yeah.
and they had the $5 million royalty
Right.
that they no longer had to write a check for. So they were already $5 million a year in the black
Right.
by taking over the assets. And they did not absorb the liabilities. That's that was 50 minutes long every 3 months
Wow.
for 5 years.
No kidding. That's a lot of content.
Yeah.
50-minute show. So you guys would literally make shows nonstop, really. You'd
Yeah.
have to be.
Oh yeah, we were.
You're probably in a
We
rush
had
to do it.
we had several buildings
Yeah.
that had nothing but this show in it, and
Yeah.
people programming constantly while I was working in the studio to
Right.
constantly be coming up with the next show take.
The next
I
thing.
spent 50% of my time in the studio, mixing, writing,
crazy.
recording. You know, we were.
Hours.
Yeah,
hours,
and that was the
hours.
best part of the whole thing was
Yeah.
getting to make music.
I'll bet. Well, you became a music producer, basically.
Yeah, yeah, and an artist and a writer. I even
Yeah,
have my own original songs.
Did you?
Yeah, I've got plenty of original songs out too.
Did you guys ever? I assume you guys did albums of some of the music.
We did our first album and never got a chance to do one after it. And the first album was called Our First Album.
That's a great first.
But you know, we were talking about something earlier, and because I was planning on having a series of albums that had a continuing theme.
Sure.
Like, damn, a second album. What do you think? You know, and then the third one's come along. Our heads are getting big. This is our third album. You know, something like that.
Right.
So there'd be a continuing theme.
great.
So I was always thinking about the next thing, the next thing, the next
Yeah.
thing.
I could just
I
imagine.
get yelled at for that.
Yeah.
What I got yelled at was something that Mitzi said that they think she said, but she didn't say.
What?
They thought Mitzi used the F word.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't even clever. They just thought she came right out and said, "Here comes Santa Claus, here comes Santa Claus."
Said walking. Oh
Yeah,
My God, that's
but
hilarious.
she was singing, the girl that was doing it, that was before I had my permanent voice for Mitzi. It was like one of the in-between singers.
Sure.
And she was singing in a way, she was pouting, and she was singing with a little character in a voice. And it was a disco beat, so Duke was going shoobida shoobida shoobida, and it's on the record, shoobida shoobida. And then she's singing walking down Santa Claus Lane, and the shoobida and the walking. And they told me what I did, and I couldn't believe it. And I put on the record, because we were selling records. We had it in the gift shop, and it was popular. Everybody loved it. Bob Brock loved the show. All the kids loved the show. We were selling them at the gift count.
Yeah.
And I put the record on the record player, and I played that part. And by golly, I could hear it too. So I tried to explain to him it's an acoustic phenomenon, and if you're not looking for it, you won't hear it. And I could play you the tracks separated so you could hear that
Sure.
she never said that.
Of course not.
But Bob Brock never forgave me for it. He never believed me.
No
Yeah,
kidding.
he says, "I know you did that on purpose."
What?
Yeah. So he must have meant that even though it was an acoustic phenomenon,
Yeah.
that I did the phenomenon on purpose. For example, Uncle Clunk.
Yes.
Uncle Clunk come out looking like he's with the
Right.
chin and the nose.
Yep.
And it was worse before we fixed it.
No kidding.
Yeah. When he originally had a cleft in his chin.
No.
So innocent, and I believed in my artist.
Right.
My artist, the same artist that sculpted all this stuff, he didn't do that on purpose.
No.
It's just that we were doing a parody of what the real guy looks like, who
Right.
did the Uncle Clunk
Like a
voice.
caricature.
He has a great big nose,
Yeah.
he has a great big chin, and by the time Dave finished it, it looked like.